Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to have back Dr. Robert Templeton, or Bobby Templeton, as he told me to call him. He is the superintendent of the Ingram ISD. So, Bobby, first of all, welcome back.
Well, thank you. Good to be here.
So, we are recording this in early September, and that means a new school year for you and your team. And I really wanted to visit with you about 2024 and 2025. What new initiatives or what do you have new going on at the Ingram ISD?
There is actually a lot going on. The very first week before school started, 9 days before school started, we had a historic flood. And it caused almost $1 million worth of damage. Took out a gym, took out our track, multiple classrooms, air conditioning. So we have today is our 16th day of school or 17th day of school. And our kids in some of our buildings just got air conditioning yesterday. So it's kind of been interesting.
Interesting is an interesting word to
Yeah, it's
use.
been hot. Those kids have been great though. They've been troopers.
So what's the student size of Ingram ISD?
Today we have 1,362 students as of this morning.
High school?
High school, I want to say is 462. It fluctuates a little bit every day, but that's pretty close.
So any new academic initiatives or things along those lines for this school year?
So we have something that's new-ish. Last year was our first cohort of our early college program. It's a program that we started 5 years ago with our eighth grade class, and those kids have matriculated through. And so last year was our first cohort of our college initiative. And not to get into all the nuts and bolts of that, but at the end of that rainbow, 65% of our kids got an associate's degree before they graduated high school. So they got an associate's degree 1 week, and we bused them all to San Antonio in really nice Greyhound buses. They went through their college graduation. And then in a huge letdown, they came back the following week and graduated from high school.
So in addition to having that associate's degree, are they able to use that to enter into college at an elevated or quicker level?
Absolutely. They get a minimum of 62 hours, and every student that gets that goes to college as a college junior. Saves every family $50,000. I have twin girls that went through that. It saved us quite a bit of money. But within 2 weeks of them arriving, for example, my daughter was literally moving into her dorm at UT and was sent the instructions to order her senior ring. And she called and said, "Dad, I'm just not ready for this." So it's kind of a neat thing. Kids are able to, if you want the 4 year experience, you can go on and go to grad school. But if you just want to get out and go to work, then you can absolutely do that. Really helps kids who otherwise would never have the opportunity or the wherewithal to go to college.
I've heard you share the origin story of that program.
Mhm.
Can I just ask you to share it again? Because I think it's such a great
Sure.
story about seeing a problem, sitting down with your friends over a cup of coffee or a drink and saying, what can we do?
Yep. So there are early college schools that are popping up all over Texas. Typically, they're a school within a school. We thought about doing that, but we quickly decided that this is going to be for every single kid in this school district. Starting in the first grade, we're going to create a college going culture, or we're not going to do it. So we sat down with a group of people just very organically one day at the Hunt store. And our simple mandate was this: how do we end generational poverty in Kerr County? Because generational poverty, it's exactly what it says. Grandpa's poor, dad is poor, you're going to be poor. There's an ongoing cycle. How do we end generational poverty in Kerr County? And so we started going back and forth with different ideas. We came up with a backpack program. We came up with giveaways. We came up with sponsorships. And then one of our group, it wasn't me, said, "Why don't we give every kid a college education?" And I was just thinking, let's get realistic here. But we started ferreting that idea out over the next year or so. And then 5 years later, which was actually last year, we had our first cohort. 60 kids walked across the stage with industry certification, or most of them had their associate's degree.
What are some of the other initiatives you have going on this new school year?
Okay, so the biggest thing that we have right now is we started a building trades program. um, because not every kid needs or wants to go to college. College is important to many, but it's not important to everybody. So we want everybody to get that associate's degree, because if you want to go and work at Sonic, for example, and there's nothing wrong with Sonic, not saying that, but if you're going to work at Sonic, that way you're not going to be the guy that's slipping burgers and fries out till midnight. You're going to be the guy or the girl who is the manager and counting the money and hiring and firing people. So it's just going to give you a leg up. But we learned that there was something not learned. We've always known that not everybody is going to college, and there is a huge need for building trades. A lot of builders we talked to just couldn't find electricians and plumbers and framers and that kind of thing. So we recently started a very robust, this is our first year, building trades program in which a group of kids are going to apply to get into this program. They did, lots of interest. And every year they are going to build a tiny home. And at the end of the year, we're going to raffle that or auction it off, I should say. And then the proceeds from that auction will go into building next year's tiny home. But when those kids graduate, we plan on giving them a hard hat, an engraved or a monogram tool belt, all the tools that are necessary for them to go out, meet and interview with the builder and get an outstanding job right out of high school.
What are some of the extracurricular activities of the Ingram School District you're most proud of?
So we have a bunch of extracurricular activities. You wouldn't think so from a school our size, but we have obviously all of the sports, all the clubs and organizations, pretty much everything that a young student would want to do, they can do. Now, being from a smaller school, I spent the bulk of my career in large schools and kids were very pigeonholed. But when I got to a smaller school, it was just the coolest thing ever because kids can fully explore everything that they want to do in a school. We had a girl a few years ago. Let's see, let me get this right. This is on a Friday afternoon. She sold, she was, let's see. Okay. She was in a pep rally and she was cheering. And then right after that, she went and played volleyball. And as soon as the volleyball game was over, she went and served barbecue for one of her clubs and organizations. And then she put her homecoming dress on and was part of the homecoming court. And then she got back into her cheer uniform and cheered. And she was able to just do all of those things, fully experience a great full student life. And when you're in a bigger school, that's hard to do. So we do have quite a number of extracurricular activities, everything that you could want, and they're surprisingly successful. People don't realize it, but they are.
I've heard you talk about really being with pride, I should probably say, about the academic success
Mhm.
of your high school students, particularly, but throughout the school district. Could you say a few words about that?
Yeah, sure. The state of Texas rates every school just like when we were in school: A, B, C, D, or F, and an F is not very good, and an A is good. And we, for the last number of years, have been an A-rated school district. Um, and that's kind of a neat thing, and it's a little bit of a source of pride. But what is most prideful, at least to me, about that is roughly 70 to 75% of our kids are impoverished. And there is a one-to-one ratio between kids who are poor or kids who have money, I should say, and academic success. So if you juxtapose the number of kids that are poor by how many kids do really well academically, I think that's a solid indication of how good we take care of kids. We don't talk about scores that much. What we do is we like to talk about kids and ways we can take care of them.
I've seen interactions between you and the superintendent of the Kerrville Independent School
Mhm,
District and even Dr. McCormick at Schreiner
mhm.
University. It appears from the outside that you all have a good relationship and really work together in education. Would that be a fair assessment?
That is absolutely a fair assessment. Brent Ringo over at Kerrville ISD, Charlie McCormick out at Schreiner, even Cody Newcomb at Centerpoint, Lucy Harmon at Hunt. We text back and forth quite a bit when there's weather issues, when there's state issues, legislative issues, that kind of thing. We generally all get along. Not going to say there's not a tiny bit of competition because that's healthy, but not much. Generally, we all work together. I absolutely want the best for Centerpoint kids and Kerrville kids and Hunt kids. If you are a kid, I want you to succeed. And as one of my colleagues says quite frequently, a rising tide lifts all boats. There's no reason not to work together. And I think we model that pretty well.
We've heard a lot about the proposed voucher program in the state of
Mhm.
Texas. We had a presentation at Rotary on that. And one of the things that struck me in some of the questions and comments you had about that presentation is, guys, it's coming. It's competition, but we welcome competition.
We do.
Why does Ingram ISD welcome that competition?
I The United States of America is built on competition. I do not agree with giving out a participation ribbon to everybody who shows up to the Little League game. I just don't. We are built for competition as humans. We are built for achievement. And so I think that within any type of organization, whether it's a public organization, whether it's a business, competition will help you be the best you can be. And I like that because when we have to compete for students and for money and for prestige and for cachet and all of those things, that forces us to up our game. And the end result of us upping our game is kids being better, kids being more academically prepared, more academic or athletically prepared. And anything that we can do to make kids better is great in my opinion.
Actually, I'd like to maybe turn the subject away from the school district now
Sure.
to I met you when the West Burke County Chamber of
Yep.
Commerce came to my home podcast studio
Yep.
for ribbon
That
cutting.
was interesting.
It was.
Huh.
And then I got to know you a little bit more through Rotary. So it's clear to me that you have a very public facing position as superintendent, but you're very involved in your community. Could you tell me about that involvement and why it's so important to you?
Yeah, I can. We preach to kids all the time, be involved, give back. And there's all these little cliche things that we've all heard before. Give back to your community, be involved, those kinds of things. But as a leader of a school or the leader of any organization, you can't really say that unless you actually do that. So one of the things that's really important to me is just being out there in the community, not necessarily somebody that wants to pontificate about how important you are or anything like that, but just somebody that wants to work in a concession stand or pick up trash or got my friend Christy Vandenberg back here. We handed out water. Yes, was it yesterday? We handed out water, just those kinds of things. And I do feel like that when you do that, you set a bar, an example for students and teachers to live up to. And I think if you're going to lead an organization, you have to, and this is another cliche, but you absolutely have to walk it like you talk it.
Can I ask you a little bit about your Rotary
You
experience?
can.
When did you get involved with Rotary first?
So I don't probably remember the year, but that would have been about 18 years ago in a small, very small chapter in South Texas, Brackettville, where I worked as a school administrator. And I actually became the president of that chapter and always loved Rotary. I've been involved in other organizations from time to time. I've been an optimist and flirted with the Kiwanis and that kind of thing. And they're all fantastic. But, the mother Rotary just keeps calling me back. And I'm not 100% sure why, but I love being in Rotary and am still involved.
I was being interviewed by somebody and I had my Rotary shirt on. And he said, I was going to ask you about your service work, but you've already told me what the answer is by wearing that shirt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so one of the things I like about Rotary is they do things locally, and that's fantastic because I think charity begins at home, success begins at home. You have to start small and kind of grassroots, mustard seed type environment. But one of the things I really like about Rotary is they juxtapose that with this massive service project. And that is to, like, our massive project at the school was to end generational poverty. But with the Rotary, their massive worldwide push was to end polio. Polio has struck tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people over the years. And ending polio is just like a huge thing. So with our leaders at school, we have something called a BHAG. And I don't know if you ever heard of that or not, but it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. And ours is to end generational poverty. But I love the fact that Rotary has, and it's not their term, it's mine, a BHAG of ending polio. And I just love being a part of something that is so massively big and successful that it kind of gives you a sense of what would you say, like a brotherhood or a kinship with people all over the world who have that same BHAG.
Could you tell us about some of the things you've enjoyed doing with Rotary? You've already mentioned handing out bottles of water with Christy. Any other projects you've enjoyed?
I've enjoyed every single project I've ever done, and there's a bunch of them, and I won't get into it, but I will tell you the thing that I like about all of those projects is getting to meet and work with people like you and with Christy and with Jeff Wendling. I could go on, but I have met so many fantastic friends, so many outstanding community service members, so many people to look up to, people that I sometimes now consider my heroes through Rotary. And it's just been a vehicle for me to really meet some amazing people that I otherwise would have never gotten to meet. But you do that through projects.
Is there anything that weren't able to get to about 2024, 2025 school year that maybe in the second half of the year you're pointing towards?
Um, there's a lot, but I would think the thing that's on my mind the most, and it's probably on the mind of every school superintendent in Texas, well, every school superintendent in America, and that is school safety. I didn't know till just a second ago or a few minutes ago, you told me there was a sadly another school shooting in Georgia. I think those are going to happen from time to time. And so school security is always on our minds. I'm a very good sleeper. I don't lose sleep over much, but I do lose sleep over kids being safe. When a parent drops their baby off at our front door, there is a very real understanding that they're going to get their child back in better condition than when they dropped them off. And that's a sobering and very real responsibility that we have to really think of every day.
Well, Bobby, I can't think of a better way for us to end this podcast than on that thought. So I hope we can continue this
Oh,
conversation.
absolutely. Anytime. I will want to do one thing though, and this has kind of been my signature, and that's give you some fist bumps right there. Andrew, give me somebody. All right. I'm glad to be here, guys.